So welcome everyone. We're so glad you could join us for another edition of getting together with our ministry partners internationally. And I have with me Luke Lyons here with Global Surge and all the way from the Philippines. So hello, Luke.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks so much for the invite. I'm really looking forward to today.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for doing it. We appreciate it a lot. And let's just start off by reminding the folks where you and Kelly are located geographically. Where are you guys specifically?
So we live in Southeast Asia in Metro or Mega Manila, Philippines. It's a huge city, a lot like Greater Snohomish, 25 million people just crowded into about 300 or 500 square miles. So we pack them in tight over here.
You do. Isn't it one of the highest density populations in the world?
It is, yeah. I think it's in the top 5 or 6 internationally.
Amazing. Well, would you just remind us and the folks here who's all in your family? Just tell us about those kids and your wife.
So my one and only is Kelly. She's actually a missionary kid who was born and raised in South Korea. And so we have a lot of Asian influence within our own, between the two of us. I grew up here, she grew up in South Korea. And then we have three young kids, Scott, who's 10, Everett, who is of no relation to Gordon or his family, Everett, who is 8 years old, and Virginia, my youngest, who is 5.5, if you ask her, very, very prominently, 5.5.
5.5.
And they're all doing great. Two of the 3 were born over here in the Philippines, actually.
And you guys are homeschooling them right now, right?
We are homeschooling them. That's been a new ministry in itself. Trying to figure out what the ins and outs of what life is like as a pastor, as a parent, and as a teacher, all within the same 12-hour window.
So the COVID has really affected everybody, and you guys, because that's a new thing for you guys.
It is, yeah. We went under an enhanced community quarantine nationwide, all of our islands, starting March 15, and we are still under a quarantine now halfway through September, and so we're 6 months into it, and we're going to see what the future holds for the quarantine here.
Great. Well, Luke, Global Surge is a multifaceted ministry, and could you just give us a kind of a brief overview of the main things that Global Surge is about?
At our center, we're a church planting ministry. Everything revolves around our church planting movement and especially in an urban church planting model. We try to find urban centers. Predominantly, historically, it's been here in Mega Manila. We've expanded to a few other cities outside of Mega Manila. And now we've expanded beyond the Philippines, and we are working on our 3rd church plant in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and working on a few churches in Bangkok, Thailand as well. And so it's been very strategic in trying to find these highly densely populated areas that kind of seems to be our area of focus. Go where the most unbelievers are, crowded into an area, and plant a church, and as many as you can plant. With Mega Manila being 25 million people, you can plant a church every square mile and have 50 to 70,000 people to work with that don't even cross paths with the other ones. And so that's our primary. We're very strong on evangelism, immediately followed up with one-on-one discipleship, plugging people into community groups, like a small group, and then walking them deeper into their spiritual life to eventually, our goal is to get everybody to be part of a church planting team at some point in their spiritual walk.
Well, I've appreciated how intentional you guys are about your discipleship process. That's one of the things that I've always appreciated rather about you guys, is how intentional you are about taking someone from non-believer to new believer and all the way to leader, and in some cases pastors. Can you just give us a couple more of the ministries that you guys do creatively? You guys, I know, can turn just about anything into an outreach, but you have some ongoing ministries that are real strategic for you.
Sure. So some of our ongoing ministries that have been put on a slight pause right now during this COVID scenario is our evangelistic camp ministry. And we're very intentional about bringing unbelievers to our camp. And it's an extremely fun program. It's designed for kids between the ages of 14 to 25. And so not here, it wouldn't be elementary, it'd be early high school all the way through college. And 9 out of every 10 people that we bring to camp have never heard the gospel before or have never been to church. They come from all different lifestyles. We get everything from drug dealers and gangbangers. We've had full gangs come out and had gang fights at camp before, all the way to straight A students who are honor students who have get degrees in really high academic levels. So that's been a great tool for us to share the gospel. And in fact, we have some men that are pastors now who were saved at camp 10 and 15 years ago. Wow. And have come through our ministry and have been mentored and trained and graduated from our Bible college, which is a whole nother ministry that we offer, a 4-year bachelor's degree through our Bible college. We're transitioning into a university status, actually, in our Bible college. We're moving to Global Life University, which is pretty exciting. We're now going to be able to branch out intentionally to Bangkok and into Phnom Penh as well, and doing that. So those are 2 areas. We go into all kinds of other things. We have a very large children's ministry that intentionally reaches kids, and we bring the program into the community instead of waiting for these kids to come to our church, which in most cases an unbelieving family is not going to take the time, the resources of transporting themselves and their children all the way to a church facility. So we bring the program to them. It's called Kids Jam, and it's called Jesus Kids with Jesus and Me. That's the jam, Jesus and Me. Wow. And bring the program out to them. And my brother runs that ministry, and he has about 5,000 kids every week that he reaches all over the city and in Phnom Penh as well, and pushing into Bangkok. And so that's been a great tool as well. And in fact, his key leader, the guy who runs the program with him, was saved in that program about 15 years ago. And he got saved. He figured out how to get his mom to church. His mom got saved. His dad got saved, and slowly, one by one, every member in his family came to know Christ. And they're all diehard in the church, always involved in ministry consistently.
That's really, really great. And I know you guys have other ones too. You got the basketball ministry, and you guys use martial arts and all kinds of other things. So it's exciting to watch and partner with you, and it's been fun to bring over, fun and very meaningful for us to be able to bring teams over that your churches can use to help do some outreach. And so how many churches have you guys planted, by the way, in the Philippines right now? About?
We've planted over 30 churches so far. Recently, we've actually had some other churches come to us who wanted to join into our network, which was very different for us. We were not looking to add churches to our group. We were always looking to just plant new churches, and had some pastors who really needed to belong to a tribe, and they really wanted to be connected. They've been connected through our camp ministry and through, like you said, our martial arts ministry called Tough Guys, and 2 or 3 other kind of outreaches that we've connected with them. And eventually they came to us, and it's almost like Global Surge has turned very magnetic, and in finding people that want to come in and partner more and more with us, and kind of follow the Global Surge way in ministry, in very strong evangelism, very strong discipleship, and follow through also, and continue on through that ministry pipeline.
Oh, that's so great. We love it that you love the church. So thanks for doing that. What is your, by the way, personally, your specific focus, your role in particular with Global Surge?
So a few years ago, I was one of our Global Surge directors under our spiritual development, and I head up our discipleship and our community group or small group ministry for all of our churches. And then a few years ago, a position opened up as the Chief Operating Officer. And so I stepped up as COO for Asia and international for this side of the world. And so my biggest goal is working predominantly with leaders. I spend a lot of time mentoring and developing middle to upper level leaders. I do a lot of assessments and coaching, and spend my time helping churches. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but if I can get that wheel to spin smoother or faster or more efficiently or more effectively, that's where I spend a lot of my time. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I spend a lot of time, I get material, books, things like that, and say, let's read through this together. Let's talk about this. Let's see what this looks like applied in your church, in your ministry. Let's do some assessments and figure out how we can continue to expand your ministry horizons and increase the number of volunteers, increase the number of outreach ministries that we can do, and effectively grow your church spiritually and numerically.
So good. Well, Luke, you always have a million stories, and they're great stories because God's at work over there. But you got one you can share with us about God at work? Like I said, I know you have many, but we'd love to hear what God's doing.
So I'm going to tell you one that I just heard this week, which is really encouraging from one of our pastors. We at our main church, we call it our kind of like our training campus, where where we intentionally have people who want to become church planners. They come and spend time with us at our church and learn the ways of how we do ministry and why we do ministry certain ways. And so one of our pastors, who's been with us for about 10 years or so, was hosts and runs 2 of our services, our Friday and Saturday night service. The primary target for these 2 services are college and high school students. And he was intentionally, his name is Pastor Ryan Obasan. And about 5 years ago, we were very intentional about reaching this very rough part of the city, right within our city. And so he was constantly going down there. Now, Pastor Ryan comes from this background. He used to be a former drug addict. He comes from a very rough gang lifestyle, and now is a very powerful pastor and a very powerful preacher, and can relate and connect with young men and women who come from this lifestyle. So he was reaching into this area consistently. And we came around to the middle of the year, about July, and we have a big friend day. And so he found a way to go down there with 3 or 4 jeepneys, which is kind of our national iconic form of transportation, and had been inviting kids for weeks, and filled up 3 jeepneys, which are about 20 adults per jeepney. So it's about 40 teenagers, and crammed them in. And they all came to church. And they came to church, and it was very interesting. When sometimes in some of our youth services, which our whole purpose is to reach the lost, it can sometimes get a little rowdy. And so after one of the church services, a little scuffle broke out down in the parking area as they were reloading up into the jeepneys. And one kid got really badly injured. He actually got stabbed by another gang who was at church that weekend as well.
Oh,
and this young man just really got mad at Pastor Ryan and said, "Is this why you came to our neighborhood, to bring us here so that we would get in fights and die? Was that your whole reason in coming down here?" Which really hurt Pastor Ryan. I mean, he's like, no. I'm a pastor. My heart is to reach you. Like, why would I ever put you in harm's way? And so the kid goes home, goes back, don't see him again. He just never came back. And we lost contact with him and several of the people that he was with, his group. And so this summer, through all of this quarantine that we're going through with COVID and everything, he's been doing some sideline businesses, and one of his sideline businesses is making T-shirts. And so he was screen printing a bunch of T-shirts, and another pastor from one of our newest church plants that just launched in February, Pastor Rodno, came over to Pastor Ryan's house, and they were working on some T-shirts. Well, they're working on these T-shirts, and one of the guys Rodno brings is one of his leaders. He needs someone to kind of go with him and pick up the equipment and the church and the T-shirts and the material. And this young man looks at Pastor Ryan and says, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And he goes, "Well, not kind of. You look familiar, because we've had thousands of people kind of come through our church, and I've seen you through multiple, I don't really know." And he goes, "My name's JR. I was that kid who got stabbed that night. I'm part of Pastor Rodno's core team, and you absolutely changed my life that night. And I just want to say thank you." And it's just beautiful to hear and to see how a young man like JR, who we had no clue we were making that big of an impact in his life, and he comes to church, gets hurt, gets really, really injured, and goes back angry. And the Holy Spirit, who got hold of his life that weekend, just kept staying on him. And lo and behold, another one of our church plants went back into that community years later and found this guy and continued to witness to him and continued to reach him and disciple him. And now he's one of the core team members of this new church plant 5 years later. And it's just powerful. And we hear stories like that. I don't want to say all the time, but we hear stories like that. And it just hits you right in the heart, because you're going, this is why we're over here. This is exactly why we do ministry, and we just don't quit. We just will find a way to reach people that are hard to reach. We have a mantra at Global Surge that says, "Give us the hard places, give us the hard people, and we'll go after them. Leave the easy ones for other people, but we're going to go after the hardest people to reach." And that's evident by RJ's life and Pastor Ryan's life.
Oh, that's amazing. Love to see God at work through you guys. Thanks so much for that. Well, as we kind of wrap it up here, what are one or two of the biggest challenges or prayer requests that you're facing right now as we continue to hold you guys up in prayer over here?
So I'll give you two different areas. The first is going to be in our personal family life. As we're homeschooling our 3 elementary kids, a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner who's learning everything new right now as a kindergartner, Virginia is. If you'll pray for my family, for Kelly and I, as we try to navigate this new system, this new world of not only being parent, but also being teacher. I've self-proclaimed myself as principal, but you still get to spend the time going through school with them every day. And that can kind of wear on you, especially when you have in the back of your mind all the other things that we have still going on in ministry. And so if you'll pray for Kelly and I and our kids as we transition. We don't know when the local government will open back up to allow kids to attend classes again. As of right now, kids are not even supposed to leave the house. So it's been 6 months. Wow. So my kids haven't seen hardly any of their friends, none of their friends hardly from church in 6 months. So if you'll keep that kind of can wear on you psychologically and emotionally. The second big thing is a really big opportunity. We are starting in October our evangelistic small group parties. We call them Meet My Kaibigan Party. Kaibigan is Filipino for friend. And we've changed it slightly to Meet My Kapitbahay Party, which is Meet My Neighbor Party. And so we're having every member of every community group invite their next door neighbor or 2 into their household. We want to keep it, the maximum you can gather right now is 10 people under the current government regulations. And so we say, keep it to 10 people or less and invite your immediate neighbors over and share the gospel. And so we're looking that will be launching October 1 through October 15. Mm-hmm. If everything goes smoothly, we're going to see thousands and thousands of people hear the gospel for the first time in people's homes where the follow-up is imminent. It's right next door. And so we're expecting to see a lot of people come to know Christ. I'm praying that a lot of people will come to know Christ. Looking forward to our baptisms being full for months into the end of the year, and seeing new disciples grow from this. And I'm praying that this will be our biggest year yet where we've ever shared the gospel and seen people come to know Christ. Last year we had I think it was 2,500 or 2,600 people come to know Christ between October 1 and October 15 last year. And I'm looking for even more this year. I believe this is a great opportunity. And so if you'll pray with us, those 15 days are pretty critical in our ministry in doing that.
We will definitely do that. And my goodness, what a tremendous opportunity. And what a cool thing that in this year where things seem to be very shut down, I appreciate that you guys are still pushing out and figuring out creative ways to go ahead and serve, to go ahead and reach people with the gospel. So thanks for setting that as an example and a spur to us as a church as well to remember that just because we have to be a little bit more quarantined doesn't mean we stop doing missions and ministry all around us.
Yeah, I kind of look at it like we're kind of in a slingshot, and all we're doing is getting pulled back, but all it's doing is creating more spring for the launch as we relaunch all of our churches in the next quarter.
That's great. Luke, thanks for taking time with us today. Tell Kelly hello from us. So grateful that you could take the time to be with us today. God bless you.
Absolutely. I love SCC and all that you guys do. You make a huge difference in our lives personally and in our ministry. And I really, really appreciate you guys so much.
Thanks. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.